Hello guys, what's good, and welcome back to my channel for another video. In case you guys are new to my channel, my name is Erin and I do pretty much everything crochet related. So a few weeks ago, my most popular video ended up hitting 100K. And for those of you who are returners to my channel, you know that it is my backless crop top tutorial. And I've also noticed that ever since I opened my online store, my backless crop top listing is the most popular as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that video was posted about 6 months ago, and when I had first made it, I ended up using a Lion brand wool yarn, and I don't quite remember the name of this colorway, and it comes in this teal, yellow, and light pink color. And then it hit me that I never made this top in other colorways before. I don't know why it never occurred to me to make this top in solid colorways such as black, tan, cream, or even like a burgundy color. But you know what? I'm here now and I'm having that realization. And it's just so crazy to me that just about a month ago I checked that video and it had just hit 100K. And just a few days ago I ended up checking it again, and I believe it's at like 133,000 views, which is crazy. Like in a month's time it grew 30,000 views. And I'm really just blown away by the love and support that you guys show me here on my channel. So I've decided that in honor of my famous top reaching 100K, I'll be expanding my custom order selection for my backless crop top with new colorways. Since I have quite a bit of work ahead of me and a very busy week now, I've decided to hop on here and make this a crochet with me. So go ahead and grab your hooks and grab whatever project that you're working on right now, and hopefully we can just sit down and have a crochet buddy to work with. So let's get into it. Hello everyone. So I hope you guys don't mind me using a little bit of a voiceover for this video. To be honest, for this crochet with me, I didn't really want to spend too much time sitting in front of the camera talking. I actually wanted this crochet with me to feel more like you guys had a friend or a buddy to get your work done with. I know a lot of times when I'm trying to finish up my projects, I always throw on some of my favorite crochet artists and I just kind of watch them work and I see their process, and it's kind of fun to just watch them build upon their work that's in progress. So hopefully I can just do the same for you guys. I love having someone on in the background to kind of just crochet along with. Every now and again, I do love throwing on my Netflix to kind of chip away at the shows that I'm trying to get through. But a lot of times when I need to keep track of my stitches, I get very distracted by the show and the plot. So a majority of the time I'll end up finding someone on YouTube and kind of just crocheting along with them. But anyways, here in this first clip, you guys will see me working on that famous backless crop top. And this backless crop top is perfect for chipping away at your yarn pile because I believe it uses less than 100 yards to make. And in case you're new here to my channel, I will link that backless crop top tutorial right here so you guys can learn a new pattern. But as I'm working away on these different color selections, I'll kind of walk you through my steps on how I make this top. So of course, if you couldn't tell, today is a new day, and yesterday I ended up finishing up that cream ivory color for that backless crop top, and I believe I also want to expand my colorway selection to this more of a mocha brown color. Of course I need a solid black because black looks good with anything that you could pair it with, and I'll do my best to give you guys little pointers on how I'm making the top. And in case you guys haven't seen that tutorial yet, I will try to give you guys like a step-by-step tutorial as I'm working. And in case you guys are wondering, I am using a worsted weight to make this crop top. I know everybody's sizes are slightly different from each other, so the measurements that I'll be giving you guys right now are geared towards my body size. And my size is about a 32C. It fluctuates up and down depending on the time of the month, and my waist also fluctuates. It's about a 27 or 28 inch around waist. But again, keep in mind that because this crop top has an open lace-up back, it is very versatile and can fit many sizes inside. So let's just get right into it. With my worsted weight, I'm going to begin by chaining 40, and I'm going to add 2 more for turning. So I've just finished up my chain of 40, and this should stretch across the top of your bust area. And keep in mind, from the edge of your chain is where you're going to start adding your increases under your armpit. So I've got my 40, I need to add 2 more for turning because I'll be working with half double crochets. I'm going to skip the first 2 stitches, go into my 3rd stitch, and just place 1 half double crochet for the entire row. All right, so I finally made it. Like, it looks like a little octopus arm. But I finally made it to the end of my row, and I'm going to chain 2 to turn my work. So yeah, here's what it's going to look like so far across the top of my chest. And in the original tutorial, I ended up working with a ribbed pattern. So in order to create ribbing, you usually only go through the front loop for the entire row or that back loop for the entire row. But with that last color that I just worked up, I actually didn't use any ribbing at all. I just went through both of those top loops and created an even flat piece. And I actually think I like that pattern a little bit more. The ribbing, don't get me wrong, the ribbing is very cute. I have an old pattern right here that I haven't finished up yet. If you guys can see here, there is definitely a ribbing texture or a ribbing pattern added to it, and it's very cute, don't get me wrong. But I think for the simplicity of this top and to make it so versatile, I actually just want to go through both of those top loops, and I don't really want to add any ribbing. I pretty much just want a flat piece. So if you decide that you do want to have ribbing for your top, go through the front loop only on every other row. But for me, I'm just going to continue working plain old stitches. And starting here at the second row, I'm going to begin by placing an increase at the beginning of the row and the end of my row. So in the same stitch, I'm going to add 2 half double crochets, and then I'm going to move on. But you will be having that increase in the very beginning of your row, and don't forget to add it at the very end. On the backless crop top video, I have gotten so many comments and questions asking how come one side of their work looks like it's increasing and the other side looks straight, or how come my sides are uneven. Usually it's because people will remember to increase at the very beginning of the row, but once they get to the end of the row, they just work regular stitches and they don't add their increase. So on every other row, like I said, you're adding your increases, and don't forget at the end of a row, you need to add it. Because if you miss that step, you're going to end up having to rip out all of your hard work, and that is probably one of the worst feelings in crochet. And now at the end of my row, after I've chained 2 to start my third row, I'm just working with 1 half double crochet in each stitch. And from here, I'm just going to alternate adding increases on every other row for a total of 11 rows. I'm thinking of pulling up the comment section on the backless crop top video and answering your guys' most frequently asked questions. I'm hoping that'll be a pretty helpful way to address any questions or concerns that you guys have on making my tops. So you know what? I'm gonna go grab that right now. All right, so I have my computer here and I've got some of those comments pulled up. Okay, so here Shania asks, I'm making this as a gift for a friend and she is about your size. I was just wondering if you remember how long each string was for the back ties. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact measurement, but once you have your yarn attached to the corner of the top, I would start off by making about a 3-foot chain on both sides. You don't want to make your chain too short and then tie up the whole back and realize that you don't have enough room. If you start off super long and you tie it up and you see there's all this extra string, you can always cut that string and shorten it. So I'd start off with about 3 feet on each side. Okay, yeah, here's that question I was talking about earlier. Someone else also asked, one side seems to be more diagonal than the other. Am I doing it wrong? So yeah, like I addressed earlier, if one side of your top is coming out at more of an angle than the other, it's probably because you're forgetting to add your increases on both sides. Don't feel bad, even I worked up a project about a week ago and I did the same thing. I was only increasing at the beginning of my row and I was forgetting to add the increase on that same row at the end. So just make sure that on every other row you've got those increases and just kind of check your work as you're going to make sure you don't get too far along and have to rip out too many stitches. Oh my gosh, so I just read about 3 comments in a row saying, oh, I wish you would have included the part where you laced up the back and added the straps. Trust me, looking back at it now, I really wish I did include that part, but don't worry, ever since that video came out, I have learned my lesson, and in each video I show you guys how to lace up the back. So don't worry, just for you guys, I will include an entire tutorial at the end of this video on how I lace up that crop top. Okay, let's find another question. Okay, here we go. Hannah says, this is so cute. What was the recommended hook size for the yarn that you used, and how much yarn did you end up using? So like I mentioned earlier, for this project, I am using a worsted weight yarn. So that means that this is a category or weight 4 yarn. It's pretty thick. It is definitely a pretty thick yarn, but it's not quite chunky yet. And using the worsted weight yarn, I would say that this project takes up anywhere between 100 to 150 yards of yarn. If you guys want this top to be more lightweight and more delicate, and you're thinking of using either a DK weight yarn or even a sport weight yarn, you'll definitely have to use more than 150 yards of yarn. For a DK or sport weight yarn, you'll probably have to end up using anywhere between 200 and 250 yards of yarn. And for the top that I'm making right now, I'm actually using a 4.5 millimeter hook. But I believe in that previous tutorial, I suggested using a 5 millimeter hook. A lot of the times I'll choose to size my hooks down 1 or 2 steps just because I want my work to be a little bit tighter, and I don't want there to be as many gaps in between my stitches because I want to wear it and I don't want any nip slips, you know? So if you're choosing to go with a 5.0 hook, I think it'll be fine. But just for my work, as you can see here, you cannot really see through these stitches at all. There is no gap. Okay, yeah, so another question, Kenya asks, what is the reason for using the front loop of this stitch? Is it a design choice or is it necessary to create the shirt? So like I mentioned earlier, when you choose to only go through the front loop for that stitch, you're creating a ribbing effect. And the ribbing style and effect can be achieved by either going through the front loop only for that entire row or choosing to go through the back loop only for the entire row. But no, it is not necessary to use the front loop only to create the top. It is definitely just a design choice. Like I've showed you guys earlier, it just adds a little ribbed effect. So you see here how these rows kind of pop out and stand out compared to these rows here that are more indented. It is definitely just a style choice. It just adds a little bit of flair to your top if you don't want it to be so flat. Okay, and for the very last question, Meg asks, this is a great top. However, how can I adjust the size for my body? All right, this top is meant to be very minimalistic and it is only meant to cover the front section of your bust and a little bit of your torso. With my chest or bust size being anywhere between a 34B to a 32C, I began with a chain of 40. And the chain of 40 is just meant to stretch across the very top part of your bust. So as you can see here, as I lie this front piece flat across the upper part of my chest, I'm making it even on both sides. I'm just choosing to have this crop top start at the very edge of my breast. So right where it begins to curve, that's where I'm choosing where I want my coverage to start. Because from this point, as you add on your increase rows on the edges here, it's going to start adding a diagonal line. You're not going to be working straight down like this where you're going to end up with a bunch of side boob. By adding my increases on the edge of my rows, it's going to start to slant down like this and cover up the majority of my bust. So assuming that a beginning chain of 40 is just enough to cover a 32C bust, if you are a lot larger than me, like a 34 double D or however large, instead of 40, start by creating a chain that is 50 or even 55 stitches long and hold that actual chain up above your bust and see if that is enough coverage for you. Keep in mind that wherever the edge of your work begins, you're going to gradually have an increase on your rows that's going to stretch diagonally across your back. So with my arm lying flat here, you can see that it comes just in a little bit from the crotch of my armpit, and from here it will angle down. And that's really how I size my top. I know it's very simplistic for a lot of you. There might not be a lot of math behind it, but I'm more of the type of gal that likes to try it on and see how it looks on my body, opposed to trying to do math and calculate it that way. So yeah, that's about it for this question segment of the crochet with me. I'm just gonna get back to working on the piece and start chipping away. All right, so it's been a few days since I last hopped on here to give you guys an update on the top. But as you can see, I have finally finished up that mocha color. And I've also made that colorway in the black top. And I still have this cream one here. But I'll show you guys the back real fast. I just have it laced up pretty simple. And actually I have it laced up just like I've shown in that previous tutorial. But like I told you guys earlier, I'm going to finish this crochet with me with a little bit of a tie-up back tutorial. So let's get to that right now. All right, so taking my cream colored crop top, so I'm going to begin by attaching my yarn here at the upper corners of my crop top. And I'm just going to tie off a knot here. And now I'm just going to start by creating about a 3-foot long chain. Momos, do you want to say hi? Come here. Kiss, kiss. Thank you. All right, so now I have both of my super long chains connected to my top. And now we can start lacing up the top. So first I'll begin by taking one of my strings and I'll leave enough room for like a shoulder. So if you're looking at the edge of your top, you can see the first 11 rows where you increased on every other row. And then you can kind of see the change in direction here for your last 5 or 6 rows where you started increasing on every single row. So I'm just gonna find a point at which to string through my first chain, and that's gonna be at the very bottom of my 11 rows right here. I'm just gonna poke my needle through the piece, wrap my chain around the hook, and pull it through. So far this is what one side of the crop top looks like. I'm gonna repeat this on the other side, and I'm just gonna make sure that I'm finding that same exact point. So far this is the first part of our lace up. And here's where I'm going to start to crisscross my top in the back. All right, and it's just gonna be easier to show you guys with this top-down view. But like I said, I've crisscrossed my chains, and now I'm just gonna follow the same process of finding another point in the top at which to string my hole through. And just make sure that you mimic the same exact row on the other side. So now I've completed the first crisscross. Find a point right here, lace it up there. Mimic it on the same side over here, lace it up there. So there's my second crisscross, and now I'm just gonna finish it one more time by going into the very corners of my top. So I'm gonna cross this over, enter through here, and cross this one over here, and enter on that corner. And then your top is done. All right, so now I'm back, and as you can see, I have my mocha top all done, and I also have my cream top all done. And here's what that back looks like all laced up. And as you guys have probably seen already, I have this black one all tied up as well. So I'm very excited to finally have expanded my colorway selection, and all 3 of these new colorways will be available on my online store as well. Look at his little paw.
Bye.
All right, well, I just want to end this video by saying thank you guys for tuning in and watching again this week, and I'll see you guys in a few days. Bye.